Good afternoon and welcome to another EEAP safety presentation. I'm Rick Roman.
And my name is Michael Crawley.
Today we are talking about your workers' compensation XMod. Before we get started, just a reminder that we do have the chat in the upper right-hand corner of your screen there. So if you have questions as we go along, type them in there and we'll get to the questions at the end of the presentation. So let's go ahead and get started. Michael, take it away.
All right, we're going to start out with an overview of it, and here it is. Overview is what is an XMod rate. Number two is how is it calculated, how it affects your workers' comp premium, how it can lead to a Cal OSHA inspection, and how better to control it. So those are going to be the topics that we're going to be going over today. Let's start out. What is an XMod rate? The XMod is a formula used to determine the risk of your company possesses to the insurance company so they can calculate your workers' compensation premium. The WCIRB, or Workers' Compensation Insurance Rating Bureau, produces the XMods for California employers. Similar to the credit score, which determines the interest rate you will pay for on a loan, the XMod determines your workers' comp premiums.
The difference being that where you want your credit score to be high, you want your XMod to be low, like your golf score.
That's a good pun, Rick. The golf score is good. I'm not very good at golf. Do you play golf, Rick?
Not so much.
No, we're not very good at golf here at EAP. How your XMod is calculated. The WCIRB uses a formula which compares your company's payroll versus your claims.
So there's some other factors that are figured into this equation, but that's where most of the weight is. Of course, you'd expect more injuries to occur in a steel mill versus an accountant's office, or even within the same industry, you would expect to have more incidents and claims at a company of 100 employees versus 4 employees. And this is why this comparison is done by industry as well as by the payroll. So the loss rates or claims paid and payrolls are calculated each year for every industry, and this determines on average how much is spent in claims for every dollar spent on payroll industry-wide.
The XMods are calculated over a 3-year period of time, not counting the most recent year. If your claims paid based on your payroll is equal to your expected loss rate, your XMod is 1.0 or 100%.
So if you look at this chart we have here on the right side at the bottom, for instance, if your policy was to renew here in July, they would not look at the past year. So from July of 2013 to current would not be factored in. The 3-year period would be from July of 2010 through 2012, and that's where they would calculate your rate from.
All right, how XMods affect your premiums. The base rate is multiplied by the XMod to determine the upcoming year's premium. Our example is based on a 50,000 year premium. So you can see 1.0, you would pay roughly $50,000 a year in premiums. If you were 1.2, then you would go up to 60,000, and if you were 0.8, you'd go down to 40,000. So really on this scale you can see that the workers' comp rates really can affect the bottom line of your company.
Exactly. So as the numbers get even higher or lower, we see companies all the time with XMods of much higher than 1.2, and it gets pretty significant in the amount of extra dollars, basically cash in the trash, that you're paying towards your workers' comp premiums.
Rick, what is the highest workers' comp rate we've probably seen when it comes to a mod rate that off the top of your head?
Shockingly, I've seen them up in the 400s.
4.0?
Over 4.0, which would mean on a $50,000 base, you'd be paying $200,000 a year in premiums. I don't know how these companies don't go out of business that have the higher mod rates.
Well, I would agree. That is just insane, and a lot of people don't really look at workers' comp premiums. They're just kind of shopping it from company to company to see where they can get the better premium. And when it comes to keeping your safety in line, giving people a voice, making sure we're doing ongoing training and watching our employees, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars, wouldn't you say, Rick, so that we can help save, and you guys can help save yourselves some money.
Absolutely.
All right. So moving on here, the high XMod rate Cal OSHA inspection. How do we get here? The XMod of 1.25 is a magical number. An XMod of 1.25 and higher are subject to the TICF, and there is the description below on that. Assessments ranging from 100 to 10,000 depending on your payroll.
So these are basically a fine that is assessed through Cal OSHA that you're going to be paying over and above your increased workers' compensation rates that you're going to be charged annually.
So we're going to get nailed for higher workers' comp rates and a fine from Cal OSHA.
That's correct.
All right. XMod rates of 1.25, that magic number and higher, are reported to Cal OSHA's high hazard unit and are flagged for inspection.
Now, one of the things that we often hear from businesses is that that might have a high XMod is, you know, they seem to have fraudulent cases or issues that are causing that to be high like that. The fact of the matter is that when Cal OSHA is notified of your high mod rate, they don't know why your mod is as high as it is, and the only way they're going to find out what it is to pop their head in and take a look and see what you've got going on.
Yeah, and so some of you are out there saying, well, I have a high rod rate because we've had just some unfortunate accidents, and some say we have a high mod rate because an employee was dishonest in putting in a fraudulent claim, and that just doesn't matter, does it, Rick?
It doesn't matter, and the fact is that once they're there, now you might have exposure to other issues if you're not keeping everything else straight in terms of your safety there.
And what we find is companies with a mod rate of 1.0 or higher also, even though they're not going to get flagged at 1.0, we do find that when you're starting to bid jobs and you're looking to get more business with bigger companies, that they'll look at your loss rates, they'll look at your accidents, and to see if you're a credible business if you want to work with. So I think Rick's last bullet point there, that it'll limit your bidding of opportunities, I think that's true. We do see that to be a factor on that.
That is definitely happening more and more, where companies are looking for that information to see that you have a good track record of safety.
All right, high XMod calculation inspection. Now, we've given this document out on the webinars before. This is a document request sheet from Cal OSHA. This is the one we've seen the latest on, and this has all the things that they're looking for. You'll find that these documents that we've bullet pointed on the right side, such as the written safety programs, the safety training records, inspection records, and the 300 logs and the permits and variances, the reality of it is that we put that there, and we put the inspection records twice, and I'm stumbling over that, so we wanted to make sure we emphasized inspection records. If you really don't have inspection records going on, then that is a problem. You can find that on your client login screen, so if you haven't gotten your username and password, you should do an email to us and we'll send it to you again. We've sent them all out to you, but you can also just do a search in your email for EAP, and you should be able to see that. But you really want to go to our client login screen, and that all is there for you.
Yeah, and these are all the types of things that, like I said, once they do come out, these are the types of things that they're going to be looking for. So you just want to make sure that you have all this in place so that you don't even further complicate the fact that you're getting higher premiums and assessments and potentially Cal OSHA fines.
And once again, make sure those inspection records are filled out. In the inspection record sections, you'll see a date completed and who you assigned it to fix it. And if you have any questions, just ask your inspector about that. All right, if you're not a client of ours, because we do invite a few people out there that aren't clients to attend, just to give them a sample of what we do, feel free to give us a call and we can help you with anything you're looking for. Moving right along, controlling your XMod. Hire competent and honorable employees.
So that's something that you know, to get this stuff nipped in the bud. You know, you can do things like pre-hired drug screening to make sure that you're getting competent employees that aren't going to get injured on the job, be more likely to get injured on the job. Doing background checks and finding out if you're hiring people who have a propensity to file false claims and things like that.
Well, that does sound like the right choice, Rick, and that can get kind of expensive, we know, out there on the drug screening. But when he talks about background checks, sometimes we don't even call references, do we? We don't even call the references on the employees who take the time to do that. So you really want to try to do your best to figure out who these people are. But sometimes we just can't see everything, and we understand that. All right, the next one is going to be implement effective safety programs.
And that's where through training of your employees, encouraging safe behaviors, all part of the things that we provide for you, identifying and correcting your hazards back to the inspection reports. Instituting a disciplinary program so that you can make sure that you're correcting people for the actions that could lead to accidents, and rewarding good behavior as well. All of these things show that you're proactive and that you understand the system. Kind of tends to make it to where you're going to be less likely to be taken advantage by those who might think that you're not running a tight ship.
Well, I agree with Rick. If you do that kind of stuff, the employees will have a tendency to believe, because it'll be true, that you do care about them and that they do have a voice on where they're working in. The two things that Rick said that I really liked is about, number one, rewarding your employees. And I'm not saying necessarily set up incentive plans, but you can reward your employees in a number of different ways. But you got to make sure that if you do that, you've got to have a strong disciplinary action program so that when they don't make good choices, you can discipline them too. And that along, you got to have a management team in place that has the stomach for it. So for those of you out there that are thinking, yeah, we really need to do that, you got to get the stomach up so you can put those kind of things in place. All right, offer ergonomic office equipment.
That's something that can go a long way. Some of these things, repetitive motion type injuries and things that over a period of time could wind up leading to claims. And remember, when we're looking at these insurance claims, we're not looking at the amount of incidents. You're looking at the overall dollars. That's what they're comparing, is the amount of dollars that are being spent. And so that's why it's important to take care of these issues, and those tend to be the types of ones that can wind up being lingering time off and lingering treatments and so forth that can get very costly and really drive that cost up.
So you might find that these kind of ergonomics stuff that you've got going on is, they're fine, the chair is fine, their workspace is okay, their work environments in the warehouse is fine, but you really need to put some time into that. As part of your service, we can come out and give you an ergonomic review of what you've got going on there. Me or my general manager, Sam, can do that, and just kind of give you a heads up on what you could be looking at, because an ongoing workers' comp claim on carpal tunnels or a sore back can really push you up over 1.25, especially if you've got multiple of those. So you got to be careful of that. Also, on the client login center, you'll find a stretching lesson that you can do from a chair. So for the office circumstance and even in the warehouse, people should stretch, and you might implement that if you are finding a lot of repetitive motion. And you can find that in our client center on the lesson side. It's a stretching lesson. Rick, what is the exact name of it? Stretching exercises?
Yeah, there's a couple different ones, but the beauty of it is that it does a couple of things for you. For some of your more seasoned employees, it's going to actually limber them up, help stretch them out, so that they're going to be less likely to have incidences that could cause them to get injured. And it'll also, with some of your younger folks, it helps to become an identifier for you, because injuries tend to happen a lot more often on Mondays and Fridays, and you're able to see through some of these exercises whether or not these folks are able to move the way they should.
Right, they need to be able to move the way they should. I'm not sure we're very limber around here. Maybe we should start instituting that stretching thing going on. The ladies in the office are probably going to kill me for saying that. Anyways, move right along then. Accident investigations.
Yes, you want to ensure that the legitimacy of the claims, and you also want to be able to take corrective actions. So by being able to do a proper investigation of the accident, you're able to identify what the causes were, the root causes, so that you can make those corrections and also determine whether the claim itself is legitimate.
All right, also we need to partner with the best available occupational medical clinics in your area. And you'll find that with this one, you're shopping medical clinics to a certain degree. You got to go in there, talk to the doctors, talk to them, and that's where you're going to send people with first aid issues or things where they need to see a doctor, non-emergency type of things. And you just want to figure a medical provider in the area that has the same mindset as you do, so you can get on the same page. And you just don't want to just choose one willy-nilly. You want to make sure you put some time and effort into that, because the medical providers have a tendency to overprescribe, and that is something you just want to stay away from. All right, also, avoid emergency rooms for non-emergencies. Now, I'm not going to get into a list of what is a non-emergency and what isn't, but if you send your employee into an emergency rooms have a tendency to overprescribe and go a little bit further because it's an emergency, and I agree with what their logic is. But if you get a small injury that is not affecting the employee's life, that maybe a bandage can stop, but he should see a doctor, you might want to have your management trained properly and give them in-house guidelines on what is an emergency and what kind of things aren't, and then to have somebody from your company drive them over or take them over if you guys think it fit to slow down these emergency visits to the hospital. That could be a factor in helping you keep your mod rates lower.
Exactly, and the emergency rooms do tend to be a quite bit more expensive than a visit to the clinic, and again, we're getting back to it's the overall dollars and not the amount of incidents.
Now, there is a lot of risk in anything you choose, so we're not going to get into what is an emergency, when do you do it, do you drive them? You've got to make all those choices in-house in your own business to make sure what fits for you. All right, institute a return-to-work program. I know a lot of the people out there say, well, we really don't have any light-duty work. You got to think of something, because the reality is, like Rick has told me time and time again, and I agree, that people who go back to work, the faster they get back to work, the faster they magically get healed for some reason. And I think you can think of a couple of reasons why that's true. But you need to help them get back to work.
Exactly, and this also helps you to offset part of the cost rather than having the employee being off and paid completely by the disability. You're offsetting part of that through what you're paying for whatever menial tax that you can assign them to do to come back as your return to work policy.
And then the last one there quickly is review and manage your medical expenses. You'll find that sometimes you're billed in not correctly. You're not seeing really what's going through there, and so the management team, you really got to make sure who's ever in charge of watching those bills that they're doing them appropriately and taking care of that.
Absolutely.
All right, we're here at the question and answer period of it, and so we'd like you to, if you have any questions or you want to go through anything, we'd like to answer that for you. As we're waiting for the questions to come through, let me just say a couple things. This XMod, a lot of you people out there are probably saying to yourself, well, I know what an XMod is, but after this response of this seminar, you should be able to think this: man, I got to keep my XMod low. I got to keep my circumstances in such where I'm not going to trigger a visit from Cal OSHA. And number two, I need to make sure my employees return home safely, because this is not just a profit killer. This is just a good habit that we're trying to get employees to keep in line. Rick, do we have any questions that we might be able to answer, sir?
Yes, the first one here asking, does the WCIRB advise OSHA of the mod rate?
They do. They do advise them of the mod rate. And so what happens is this agency sends a list every so often to Cal OSHA, and it's more than once a year, but they send them periodically is what we've been told from our contacts as we've tried to figure it out. Periodically they'll send a list of all of the people that are in this workers' comp, and they'll pick out target industries, they'll pick out certain locations and figure out what the issue is if they're in that area. So it's something that you got to watch out for.
Okay, I've got a question here asking about if the mod rate calculation recently changed to indicate the frequency and number of claims. I know that there are some other factors that, as I mentioned, that are calculated into coming up with the mod, but the overwhelming weight of the issue is off of the payroll and what your claims are. So to get more clarification on that, it's something that you would probably want to consult your workers' comp provider on.
Yeah, your workers' comp provider is somebody that should be able to give you that information. If you find that your workers' comp provider you're not happy with, or you feel shafted in some ways, feel free to give us a call in-house. We do have a series of workers' comp people that we can refer you to that we find to be honest and good people that we can refer you to.
Okay, next question. How does the accident severity versus the number of minor accidents influence the mod?
Well, they kind of influence them all the same. You could have a lot of little ones, a lot of little accidents, and they can really just add up to raising your mod rate up to 1.25, or you could just have one big doozy. And so you could be in business for 30 or 50 years, but you had an atrocious accident one time, and then welcome to this new life. Your rates are higher. OSHA now, you're in the OSHA world. They can see you, and that's a problem. So they're basically, it's not one or the other. It's a matter of both are bad, and we need to get a handle on both of them.
Okay, someone's asking, who has the XMod and how often does it change? Your XMod changes. It's calculated based on the anniversary date of your policy. So every year it's recalculated. You can contact your insurance company and they should be able to tell you that mod rate, and you can contact us as well. We can help you and be able to identify that. We have that information, and of course you can verify that through your workers' comp agent, but it's calculated based off of the anniversary date of your policy.
If your workers' comp agent doesn't know your mod rate, you might want to call us and let us refer you to a new one anyways, because that guy doesn't seem like, that guy or girl might not be the best choice for you. They obviously are not really watching out for your back on that side.
Okay, next question. Does the cost of medical expense impact the XMod?
It does. And so that's why we're talking about non-emergencies. Go to the clinic that you've already interviewed and talked with, make sure you're on the same mental mindset. And so you'll find that a doctor can prescribe some Tylenol over the, a prescription grade, ibuprofen or something, or he can just say, go get a Tylenol, take 2, and depending on the action, there might be one of those. It can go either side. The higher the medical expenses is the higher the workers' comp pays, the higher the mod rate.
Okay, now next question. Is there anything a company can do immediately to lower the XMod rate? A couple of things are, for one, you need to make sure that the numbers are correct. And then when we talked about checking your reviewing all of the medical expenses and so forth. Sometimes clerical errors. You might have an error in there that so they're using a different number, but the number is going to stay with you at least for a year. And actually, the number for each year stays with you for a period of 3 years. So more than likely, it's going to take a little while for the mod rate to actually come down, but so the important thing to do is make sure that you're doing everything you need to, so that if OSHA does come in during that time period, that you're that everything's okay. But it will take a little bit of time to get the number to come down. Next question here. If there was a claim reported to OSHA, and OSHA already came in to do an inspection, does that mean that they will come out again for an inspection?
Well, it possibly could. They will do periodic follow-ups, and so once you get put into the OSHA system through via a mod rate issue, or a reporting of an accident, or just anonymous reporting, the reality is they have your number there, and they will come back and come back. Now, sometimes they come back and you never see them again. But the reality is of it, once you're into their sites, they're very, usually they come out every few years to make sure you're okay, until they get the idea that you have seen the light, or that you are on a plane that is equal to their mindset.
Okay, the next question says, how long can an injury affect your XMod rate? Like I mentioned, the mod is calculated over a 3-year period. So shockingly, depending on your circumstances, depending on the severity of it, if it raises it up enough, you may be over 1.25 for the next 3 years.
That is crazy to think, but Rick is exactly right. This isn't a quick fix, but it's not. But it's quickly to get here, isn't it, Rick?
Yes.
It's quick to get to that problem, but it's not quick to fix it. And so, really, this is more about maintenance and keeping the program moving, keeping ongoing training. Even when you say, I don't have time, that's when you need the training the most, so that you don't go too fast and miss the steps that keep you away from these kind of problems.
And I think that's one of the things that we run into often is that people think that because somebody, maybe they had a fraudulent claim, or somebody maybe the claim didn't start as fraudulent, but they've milked it to just linger on and linger on, and that there's nothing that you can do to avoid these things. But actually there is. I mean, if you're doing all of those things that we've recommended from the beginning in the pre-hire, making sure you're getting the right people, training your people, making sure that they're aware, fixing the issues that could cause them to get injured, monitoring your claims, doing all of those things from the very beginning of the process through the end, over time you're going to create an atmosphere, and that's what we want to be able to help you guys with, and to create that environment where you have a safer workplace and you can keep those mod rates down and your premiums and your overhead down.
I agree with you, Rick. I agree with you.
Well, that looks like all the questions that we have for today. If we'll let Michael give some closing comments, but if you have any further questions, you're free to call us anytime. Be happy to answer any questions. Our 800 numbers there at the bottom of the screen. And Michael, you have some closing comments for us?
We really appreciate you guys attending. We have some more webinars that we're going to be doing. We're going to be trying to doing these every month to month and a half as we go forward. Rick's email is rick@eeap.net. So if you have any suggestions on any topics you'd like us to cover, feel free to go over that with us. Also, we do have an EEAP, the Safety Book People Facebook that would like you to like us on. You'll see that daily our people put on a lot of safety quotes and pictures. Some are very interesting and shocking, and we just kind of have a collage of things to watch out for. That's something to watch there, so your personal phone, you can have access to that. Also, we just wanted to tell you how grateful we are for everything that you guys do for us, and we were looking to make sure we service you in any way we can better. So look on your client centers, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Thank you very much, guys. Stay safe.